Hey Simone, lovely to see you on, well, what's a fairly bleak afternoon in New Zealand. I don't know what it's like in Sydney, but it's fairly grey here.
Oh, it's beautiful. The sun is shining, the waves are lapping, you know.
Always beautiful in Sydney, especially when you live on an island as you do.
Yes, that's true. It is definitely a lucky thing to be here.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to your presentation coming up. So any precursors you want to give us? What's the you're looking at communication today?
Yes, absolutely.
Something that we in IT are often accused of not being very good at.
No, that's true. I was actually just thinking from listening to Karen and April's talk in particular that if we're going to do the org change, if we're going to use these approaches, if we're going to share the knowledge, then we need to know how to communicate that. It's definitely very much a human thing. For all the self-service and etc. that we're wanting to design and have people use, we still need to think about that from a human communication perspective.
Great. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. As you know, communication is one of my big things that I'm interested in, and I'm really looking forward to hear what you've got to say. So excellent. I will hand over to you, and we look forward to seeing your slides and hearing your lovely voice.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll just switch over to my screen share now. Won't be a second. Okay, so you got that at your end?
Yes, all yours, Simone. I will hide myself and mute myself now and leave it up to you.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Hi everyone, welcome to my presentation. We'd really love it if you stay connected throughout. Remember to use your hashtags, #TFT13, and if you're following HDAA1, the hashtag #NoITSM. We'd love for you to join in and have any questions, etc., set up for the end of the session, so Kirsty and I can pull apart this whole thing about communication. Just a really brief agenda for you, so you know what we'll be covering. Just an understanding of what and why communication is. And specifically, I'm going to be covering the 6-step human communication process. That includes good vibrations, so your voice waves, the E of emotion, looking at white noise, filtering, and matching those communication styles that everyone seems to have a different way of being. So I'm absolutely thrilled to share with you the core ability to get yourself and others to generate and catch the right sound wave. It is a life skill as much as a business skill. And just as you ask, yes, unication is a real word. It's the act, instance, or process of uniting. From moment to moment, as you're dealing with your thoughts and communicating with another person, their perception is solidified. It's good to remember that people aren't difficult, they're just different. Within a few seconds of meeting someone, we form a distinct impression and decide that they're serious or aggressive, quiet, funny, introverted, or even extroverted. And then we act as if those impressions are true. I'd like to ask you, how accurate have your perceptions been of late? Understanding the human communication process increases your opportunity for successful interactions. It's a process that leads to unity within yourself, others, and what drives us. There are even communication technologies out there that use unication as their moniker, but it's still a very human business. So let's explore and learn to become a little more innovative in our two-way communication. Communication travels across vast distances in time and space and sends out ripples far and wide, and not always with the results we expected. So is communication to you just random chaos, or is it determined order? Is it a byproduct or just coincidence? In managing services, we need to be professional communicators. Our true role and product is the knowledge and information we provide and the manner in which we provide it. To manage services, we must be able to communicate clearly, concisely, and deliver understanding of the services and the impacts on the customer and the business overall. But not without first being able to absorb and understand what they're telling us they need. If communicating with impact and influence was so easy, everyone would be an effective communicator. But there's thousands of years of proof and experience. Crap happens, but sometimes it's a mystery as to why. I mean, after all, aren't humans all wired the same way? Well, let's see. Communication is a creative and dynamic continuous process, not just a discrete exchange of information. Whether energy fades into nothing or becomes a rideable wave depends on numerous factors. There's a natural tension when you see a wave approach. So are you well positioned for the best and fastest place to drop into the wave? In other words, are you ready to surf? Think about it. You're at the beach and you're watching it happen. There's a perfect barreling surf where it's breaking so nicely and you're hanging to catch that wave. But when you're first learning to surf, you're going to ding and scratch your board. Those thin, narrow rockets the stars ride, they look exciting, but they're a disaster for surfers learning the initial techniques. To find the sweet spot, you need to increase your expertise for maximum balance, stability, and manoeuvrability. But watch out, you can still wind up eating sand. Let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Communication is defined as the exchange or imparting of ideas and information, or a message to another party so it can be understood and acted upon. It's more than just speaking, writing, listening, or reading. It's about the exchange of thoughts, messages, and information. Now, the process seems really simple. Let's face it, people just take turns speaking, interpreting, and listening. It's a key component to effective service to establish good relationships with our customers, team members, managers, and any other part of the organisation. Therefore, it's important to exhibit excellent communication skills and build the rapport with customers and peers with each and every interaction. Now, that takes practice. It's a delicate dance in this surfing the sound wave. So here are some crucial elements. In essence, the human nervous system is our information highway. It's a network responsible for controlling and coordinating all the functions of the body by transmitting messages or signals from the brain to the different regions of the body, and vice versa. With the help of the nerves and neurons, they conduct those signals or impulses between the two components, that is, our central and peripheral nervous system. Now, just for the geeks that are listening today, let me translate that into human terms. Here's your server room, here's your WAN, and here's your LAN. The nexus of our world is connected in our head and contained there, the seat of all that we know as us. This is the place where our thoughts and emotions rule over and communicate to our body. It's the coming together of many energy points of our system, and in true balance, hopefully is resting peacefully on our neck. So to the process itself, let's have a look at step one. Now, we express thoughts in many different ways. The most common is verbal communication. The step here is the creation of that idea or concept. The difficulty is that these ideas are quite nebulous and they're connected to our emotions and motivation to act. Now, during this step, you dip beneath your waterline of what's normally visible to others, where there's an ocean full of strange creatures, coral and tides, and they can take over your attention and pull you away from the formulation of your message. So your focus and intent becomes absolutely crucial at this point. I want you to remember that energy flows where attention goes. Your thoughts and feelings do control the flow. On to the second step then, encoding. This is the move you make after dropping into your intended position. And you need to get this right, or your next manoeuvre is definitely in danger. As you look at the coloured bars in the internal dictionary here, I want you to see the shadows. These shadows are when you're unsure about a word, either in its context, meaning, or whether that's the right one to use. This is the bottom turn as you come off the face of the wave. There's a saying, speak your truth. The brain will align to how you're feeling, that is, whatever's going on in your nervous system, with the words that most closely match with what's in your dictionary. Think about what you truly want the person to understand and or do. What do you want to say? And how are you going to say it effectively? Choose the right words to best express your thought or idea. Remember, it's from your own frame of reference or point of view, so don't get caught up inside the wave. You need to be as objective as possible when you're encoding your message. Now, step 3, transmission. Unfortunately, this is absolutely physical and you don't have a lot of control over this. The brain has chosen how to best say the message in words and sends the message to the vocal cords and the mouth to speak. Beware what we call the noogie moment. At this point, there's no cutback. There's no reversing the direction you're surfing in one smooth, fluid move. If you haven't got step 2 right, you are going to bomb out just as you hit the sweet spot. You'll know when there's misalignment with what you want to say and what comes out through your body's signals. Tight throat, gritted teeth, shallow breathing and hunched shoulders. Your body's moving into fight-flight mode, so now we better paddle away or brace for impact. Now, we're halfway through the communication process, and because step 3 is a sound emission and is a physical act of the body, let's understand a little more about the voice. As a professional communicator, one of the most important skills to have is a good speaking voice. You can infuse the words with magic, and more importantly, in the human brain, sound is processed before words. So let's look at the vibrations. Now this is looking at the throat from above. You have your voice box, and that's a box-like structure, and it's made up of cartilage, muscle, and connective tissue. It contains the vocal folds, and those muscles are covered in a membrane that are attached to the inner surface of the cartilage. And if you look at the top of the cartilage, you'll see they're like little scissors at the front and the 2 cartilages at the back. Back cartilages, they are movable. They control that vocal cord position, like the scissor action. But what's even more important is understanding that sound is carried on air. So the lung, it's got to produce adequate airflow and air pressure so it can vibrate those vocal cords. That's what fuels the voice. There's a vibrating valve within the vocal folds that then chop up that airflow from the lungs into those audible pulses. And that's what gives you the sound source. Those muscles in the larynx, they adjust the length and tension, and that's what then fine-tunes the pitch and tone. Those articulators are things like your tongue, your palate, your cheek, your lips. That's what filters the sound emanating and interacts with that airflow, and it can strengthen or weaken the whole sound source. It doesn't take much to vibrate that airstream. Let's have a look at some of the vocal elements in how you use your voice. Inflection. That's the wave-like movement, the roll and wave of your pitch, and it tells your listener how interested you are in them and or the topic. Think about when you're at a party or something like that and you're getting a little bored. You start to find that your tone will start getting a little flat. To the next vocal element. There is power in volume control. Too loud and the sound waves crash against that of an angry person, or they're going to drown out that of a nervous one. Use volume purely for emphasis on keywords in your message. And if you want to sound confident, then you need clarity. Think about when you're unsure or you don't like a topic. You start to tend to close off your mouth, you grit your teeth, and causing a sound to be muffled or mumbled. That's the last thing that you want to happen. As soon as you start to sound like that, people will start to think, well, maybe they don't really know what they're talking about. And to one of my favourites, intensity. This is the added passion to your voice. It tells the other person your level of care and concern about them or the topic. Now, when there's no face-to-face contact, sound becomes even more important. Sound generates feeling, and feeling generates image. Your customers see with their ears. So take a look at these images on the screen. No sound, but what are you already processing as an image inside your head as to what that sound is? Remember, the human brain processes the sound before the comprehension of language. So I need to ask you then, what image do you generate with your voice? Throughout different times of the day, we go through emotional ups and downs, and our nervous system responds to the brain signals once again. Think about where you are right now, in this moment. Look at the energy line first. Where is it? Is it high or low, or somewhere in the middle on the bar? Then have a look at your emotional level. Is it towards the positive or is it towards the negative? If you're generating an image as you speak, is it happy, miserable, content, unhappy, delighted? When someone asks you how you are and you respond, fine, I want you to think about the reality of what you're feeling. What fine really stands for? Freaked out, insane, neurotic and emotional. So there's the sound of step 3. Let's look at step 4, receiving. It's time to turn yourself around and ride the wave that's coming at you. In this step, it's the physical receipt of the sound waves that carry the message. The sound waves hit the eardrum, transmitted into electrical impulses and sent to the brain for processing. Now in this stage, your tone of voice and style of speech, as you as the sender, plays a major role. It can facilitate or damage the transmission of the message. Again, it's a physical function of what's going on in the communication process. Now let's get to the decoding. The brain has taken that sound and it's entered into the dictionary, your comprehension of language. So it's taking those electrical impulses and combining it with what you think you may have heard. It's trying to match the words in your dictionary to those you thought you heard. And because of those sound shadows that were in step 2, it's not always a perfect wave signal to the brain. In addition to that, let's talk about white noise. Many times communication can be nothing more to us than just that. So there's different types to think about. There's environmental, like standing next to loudspeakers at a party, or the noise from a construction site next to the office. Physiological impairment is easily understood, actual deafness or blindness, but remember that also interferes with the intention of decoding the message. Semantic noise. Well, most of us that have learnt to speak, try to speak another language around, we know that, well, the same word can have completely different meanings depending on how they're used. All we have to do is think about our own slang. Syntactical noise, when we make mistakes in grammar, and that causes disruption, especially if there are abrupt changes in past or present tense and those types of things. Organisational noise is probably one we're very familiar with. Poorly constructed work communications. Very unclear, badly stated directions just cause plain confusion. Cultural noise is when we have stereotyped assumptions. Misunderstandings are quite common. And psychological noise, well, let me revisit that borderline. There are certain attitudes that make communication difficult. But just remember, we're not always aware of what below someone's waterline at that moment of communication. There can be great anger, sadness, or other emotional impacts that cause them to lose focus. To step 6, it is the final step in the process itself, and that's interpretation. This is when you put meaning behind the message received. And once again, dipping below the waterline into your experiences, attitudes, biases, your family cultures and social values, etc. Now that might be fine when you and the other person are from a similar background, but when you come from a different one and you're learning something new, there's a whole new language and culture to learn and interpret. The most underused communication element is checking in we heard what we thought we heard. Paraphrasing and giving the other person the opportunity to correct any misinterpretation. The best thing about this is you get to enter a new word, nuance or thought to tuck away into your own dictionary and experience cache that's below your own waterline. There has been a profound change in the last 50 years in the way we need to think. Consider all the abstract categories in today's world of science and technology. Clearly demonstrated by the topics and speakers at the recent Global Future 2045 conference in New York is a cognitive revolution that's happened, and we need to adapt to modernity. In this photo, Martine Rothblatt is discussing the different levels of consciousness. And thank you to Chris Dancy for tweeting this out while he was at the conference. It looks such an interesting thing to be at. But until such time as our consciousness may be uploaded into living brain avatars, we still need to understand that our bio-nervous system is still very basic. The filters we have are our internal biases, the personal viewpoints that are based on those experiences, values, etc. below our waterline. Throughout each one of those 6 steps, our nervous system is constantly ducking beneath the wave, and depending on how well you do that, it affects the message sent and received, positively or negatively. Business today is a global venture with people in the environment that come from diverse backgrounds and language, as this whole conference of TFT has shown. Each culture has its own sound. When we experience barriers and cultural differences while interacting with a customer, teammate or manager whose language or dictionary is different from our own, both of you will probably misunderstand each other, the request, the issue, instructions and so on. This is miscommunication, and that just leads to frustration, lower customer satisfaction and unintended insults. As a result, you increase your risk of losing that sale, the customer account, but most of all, ruining a good relationship. So in order to communicate most effectively, be respectful and open to learning and consciously aware of your own biases and filters. Now, most miscommunication occurs because of how we filter information. So how can we do that more effectively? Well, improve your efficiency. Be more aware of how our brains compose and send messages and how we receive and digest the messages from others. Be aware of your personal biases affecting the way you formulate the message or interpret one. Make a conscious choice to minimise the impact of your biases. Understand the other components of successful communication, like being sensitive to other cultures and using the appropriate vocal elements, and practicing your active listening skills. You can assist the whole process of unication by matching your communication style with that of the other person. Start by understanding their level of proficiency. Match their vocal elements, but when it's appropriate. Remember the sound waves crashing against each other. And match their vocabulary. There's always common ground between the dictionaries. And use the same level of technical terminology. Your message takes your listener on a journey from one knowing to another. The question then becomes, do you or they be able to go beyond understanding and be wise about the next action or reaction that you're going to have? The ocean is big, but you're not the only one that rides the wave. And the whole process we've just discussed can happen in nanoseconds or over great time and distance. So it's important to maintain conscious awareness of what you're thinking and feeling, as that is what you're unconsciously at times telling people through your body language and tone of voice. Remember, ask yourself, will this interaction benefit those concerned? What is it you want them to understand and or do? And turn that around to yourself when someone's interacting with you. There are wave riders with a depth of skill to them we'd like to emulate. There are inspirations that we can tuck away beneath our waterline. But don't leave them there. Bring them out. Practice with them. They all represent some human facet to explore. If nothing else, appreciate and have fun with the colourful world of communication waves and make it a great conversation. For me personally, I'd love to be able to continue our conversation further past today. And April already mentioned this morning, that she and I will be co-facilitating a knowledge-centred support workshop at KM Australia in July. So the details are there. Also too, HAA are partnering with ITSMF this year for Lead It and running a series of workshops and talks dedicated to the support services stream. And you'll find that this whole human communication process is part of each and every one of those things. Remember, you can always connect with myself and HAA if you have any questions about this or any other ITSM topic. I want to thank you very much for listening to the presentation, and I'm just going to switch back to Kirsty now. So just give me one moment here.
Great, that was great. I mean, you know my passion for communication, so that rang lots of bells for me. And seeing those diagrams of voice boxes took me back more years than I care to remember when I was doing my speech and drama licentiate study. And learning all about the mechanics of voice production and intercostal diaphragmatic breathing and all those lovely things.
Yeah, it was lovely big scientific words, all of that, wasn't it? Intercostal diaphragmatic
it was lovely. Very good. Now, so what you mean? What can you suggest to people who got to say, in IT, we do not have a reputation as being good communicators, do we?
No, not really at all. In fact, interesting what April was saying this morning in her talk, that, yes, our frontline needs the knowledge, etc., but I also believe they have to combine that skill set with their ability to transfer that knowledge. And I think that the service desk arena does that better than further back in the funnel of IT. But, there's lots of things that people can do, whether it's, I know that on a lot of the global certification courses that we run, communication is a really important section, and it has a whole unit dedicated just to this thing. People can, whether they go to Toastmasters like yourself and have lots of fun there, whether it's you do speech or drama, singing, any of those are great skill sets. And in fact, one of my greatest resources, and I would recommend anyone to watch them, is to watch the Inside the Actors Studio. Right. I don't know if you've ever heard of the show.
I have.
It's fabulous. I love hearing about the craft of how all these actors do the different things that they do, especially when they have to learn different accents for movies and things like that. And there's lots of fantastic techniques. And because Inside the Actors Studio, although they're interviewing all sorts of actors around the world, it's actually the audience are the people learning that craft of communicating. Visually and vocally. And it's fabulous that they are so straight up about their technique. And just like anything else, I mean, we can learn to hang boxes together and make talk, but we haven't quite learned how to stand face to face humans sometimes and do the same thing and interact that way. But it does drive everything else. The way we write our outage messages, the way we document things in a log about an incident, the diagnostic scripts, the emails we write. If we were to transfer the step 3, instead of coming out of the mouth when we're writing, it comes out of the fingertips. So what you're thinking will come out.
I mean, how often have you heard it? You're on a service desk and something needs to be communicated to a customer that, say, a technician is working on, and you hear them, well, don't let them speak to the customer. Find out what it is, and you tell them, because they're just no good at speaking with the customers. I mean, perhaps we shouldn't actually be letting that happen. We should be training those second and third level support staff to know how to speak to the customer, rather than just not letting them ever get close to the customers.
Absolutely. I mean, you tell somebody often enough that they're not good at something, that's exactly what they'll do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think everybody's got the ability to communicate. Well, I think I can think of a couple of exceptions within my own family who probably
Remember, they're not difficult, they're just different.
I have developed a brother, and I would never get him to speak to a customer either. I must try teaching him one day. But
I challenge everyone that's listening to this or listens to this to think about, when they're in the shower, how many of them actually sing. Because if you can sing in the shower, you can do the human communication process. It just means you've got to take it out of the shower and put it out there.
No, that's right. No. Well, this has been enlightening. I'm just going to have a wee look at the Twitter stream, Simone, and see if we have anything there for you. Yeah, just Mark Kawasaki saying how wonderful it was that you made your content so current with that GF 2045 slide.
I tell you what, I was fascinated by what was going on there, and the inroads that science, technology, neurology, and everything is making. We're so caught up in the technology side of using it as a mechanism to communicate, but from what I was seeing from all the tweets and things, especially via Mr. Dancy, that they were really exploring and understanding the human side of connecting through the technology.
It wasn't technology based. It was more human focused, and integrating with that technology and to enhance the human side of things rather than replace it, which was
exactly.
I found that really, really exciting. So no, communication is. As a race, we can't function without communication.
No, that's true. And I really want people to focus on unication. I mean, that's the whole thing, is about uniting all those elements.
Yes, right. Well, thank you, Simone, for your enlightening talk.
It was fun. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very, very much. And thank you, everyone that voted to have the topic on, because it was just so much fun. Really terrific to be able to present it.
Wonderful. And we'll let you go back to your island life in the middle of Sydney Harbour.
Thanks very much, Kirsty. Okay. See you later.
You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Introducing MyIT from BMC Software. One quick download and the way your users think about IT changes forever. Let's say they need a networked printer, or a Wi-Fi connection, or even a map of an office they're visiting. MyIT already knows where they are and shows them a list of available resources and services pre-configured for their devices. Or maybe your user needs help with something more complex. With MyIT, they can do most things themselves. But if they can't, they can simply schedule an appointment with a technician who can. In short, MyIT is built to make your IT organization more modern and your users infinitely happier, dramatically changing the perception of your services